pool looks pretty ugly.
Meeting will come to order. For your information, this is the monthly Board of Directors meeting here at Wildwood Springs Condominium Association. And at this time, I'll ask for proper notification of the meeting.
Notice was posted on the 21st in accordance with statutory requirements, or whatever it says there.
Thank you, Katie. All right. That's easy for you to say. All right, roll call.
All right, Nancy Arnold, here. Dicko Dowd. Here. Leslie's not here. I'm here. Steve. Jim Munson. Marty Kaufman. Marty, can you call me?
Marty's not coming in. No one's calling.
Monica Heigl. Third Euchers.
That would be Samara.
I don't answer yet.
You guys still need financial reports?
Tammy. Chris Perry. Debbie Dow. Here. No John Humphrey. Sue Downs. Here. John West. Careful. All right, guys.
That martini again.
There's 3 martini lunches pretty much up with it.
We do have a quorum. Don't you wish? All right, ladies and gentlemen, if I could have your attention at this time, I'm going to exercise a little executive privilege. Once we have quiet and everybody's utmost attention is set to the table, I'd like to introduce our representative on our contract negotiations with Spectrum. I will tell you, to my knowledge, it was Charity May, but I think Mr. Kelly would agree, and John would agree that I think we were successful in negotiations. So at this point, I'm going to turn the floor over to Mr. Doug Kelly, our representative. Doug, you have the floor.
Thank you. Everyone hear me okay? It's a quick group here. As Jim was saying, there's some days that I love my job. Some days not so much, because I do a lot of banging heads with service providers. Even trying to get them sometimes to answer a question or return your call is like open beat. So it can get frustrating. But then days like today come where I get to give it one good thing. So it kind of makes it all worthwhile. A recap, I was retained by the board, of course, to represent you folks in the negotiations of your cable agreement. Your current agreement is set to expire June 30th next year. So everybody was diligent and started early enough to go through the process, because it did take a couple of months to get to the point where we are right now. Just to let you know, a few of the things that were considered, the things we have to look at is, one, we know that Spectrum is doing this digital transition where they're converting all of their analog channels are going to disappear, where you could just plug the TV in and you didn't need a set-top box, and they had what's called clear-quam digital channels, which were digital channels, but they weren't encrypted, they weren't scrambled, so you could also view them on your TV set without a set-top box. So they're converting or transitioning their entire base across the country, but Manatee County, the goal is to be done by the end of January next year. And so your TV must have a piece of equipment to work. It's going to need a set-top box in order to continue to work, basically. So that was one of the considerations we had, is we had to make sure we had, at least 2 set-top boxes included in your bulk, so you wouldn't be paying rent on additional equipment that you didn't need. The other consideration is that you've had Legacy Bright House Network's premier service, which is a very robust channel lineup, I think you'll admit. So we wanted to make sure we got a channel lineup that was, comparable, and quite frankly, the lineup that we have is even more robust than I think everyone's got a good copy of it. Is a bit more robust than even the premier lineup. And the other thing I did is I pull the service level penetrations, and I say, hey, how many people have phone service here, and how many people have internet service? And one of the numbers that stands out is that 434 customers back in May, residents that live here, which is about 78%, subscribe to internet. And folks are paying somewhere between, depending on if you're in a promotional package or whatever, but it's close to $60, $54, for the internet service. Then if you have Spectrum Wi-Fi, you're paying another $5 per month for their Wi-Fi service, where some people have gone, they've got their own routers and aren't paying that, that fee. So those were important factors. We wanted, comparable channel lineup, enough equipment because of the digital transition, and we wanted to include the internet in the bulk service. Talking to John and Jim, of course, they want to make sure that rate doesn't go up much higher than it is too. So, we have to have a reasonable incremental difference, which there is some difference, but certainly pales in comparison to what you folks should be saving, will be saving, when this new bulk plan is implemented. Because if you're on internet, you won't get a bill for it if you're on the standard internet, the 100 by 10 internet. Some folks may have paid for an incremental upgrade because they wanted 200. You know, those incremental upgrades, you'll still get billed the difference for the incremental upgrade. But you're going to lose. I did an analysis for one community. We took a whole bunch of resident bills, got what Spectrum had them go through and say, okay, what will Mrs. Jones be paying now? When we averaged all of the savings, it was $64.64 was the average savings that a person is going to see.
Per month.
And that, yes, and that's per month. So that's why days like today, my job's okay. I get to share the good news. So what we have, we actually got it finalized this morning. We had received 3 proposals that we basically rejected from Spectrum, and we pushed for a 4th proposal, which was a couple of weeks ago. And I had to tell John in an email last night and Jim on the phone this morning that we haven't got an approved 4th proposal. And then I think I called you back 10 minutes later. I had an approved 4th proposal, you know, just before the meeting and all the paperwork and stuff that goes with it. So in essence, I will review the proposal with you.
That's why most of the stuff that you got delayed in the copy and stuff like this, it just happened.
Yeah, we were scrambling this morning to get all the paperwork together in the documents so we can proceed. There was another important factor too. Yeah, there should be more of this. So the channel lineups that you're looking at is the service level. You'll get every channel. The question was asked of me, how many channels are we going to get that are on this piece of paper? And the answer is all of them. All of them, including the music channels, the sports channels.
Part of the agreement is you have to watch at least 12 a day.
I think John was going to hire a monitor. Go knock on doors and check. One of the other important points was that John and Jim really wanted to implement this as soon as they could because of the savings. You know, obviously, the sooner you're implemented, the sooner you stop paying out additional monies that you might be paying, not just for internet, but you might be renting a second set-top box, you might be paying for Wi-Fi. Any of those things that are now part of the bulk that you're paying for directly will be eliminated, unless you have an unusual circumstance, a third box or what have you. So we were able to, this morning again, our target date was November 1st, however, everything had to be turned back into them by last Tuesday to make a November 1st implementation date. So we worked it out that we get this done today, then I can bring everything, if I can get there by 6 o'clock and hand them to Spectrum, then we're in for 11/1 implementation date. So anyways, the video service will be the level that you're looking at. It's called Platinum. So it's comprised of 3 tiers, Select TV, Digi-Tier 1, and Digi-Tier 2, we call it. You'll have 2 HD boxes included. And there's a caveat on this I want everyone to understand. In your current agreement, you were allowed to pick 1 box. You could pick a DVR box or you could pick an HD box. Spectrum does not allow you to choose a DVR box. You can only pick HD boxes. So if you happen to have a DVR box today, you can keep it, but they're going to charge you a $6.99 rental fee for the DVR box.
Per month?
That's their monthly fee that
We have one.
So you can keep it, but you're still entitled to your 2 HD boxes. You can have your digital boxes. You still can get your 2 HD boxes.
So you could end up with 3?
You could end up with
Conceivably,
3.
yes.
Oh,
You're
okay.
paying for the anybody that has additional services like whole home DVR service, if you have a what might be called an Echo access point or like a line extender, then those are also grandfathered in until Spectrum will no longer support them. On the DVR service, they're working on their own new platform for DVR service. So we assume they'll leave everything the way it is until that thing is introduced and rolled out. The Echo access points, I don't see any technical reason why they would want to discontinue them. The concern is if you have a whole home DVR, or an Echo access point, or an enhanced DVR, because they don't have enhanced DVRs either. If it stops working, then they're going to give you they're going to not give you another access point. They're not going to give you another whole home DVR. They're not gonna give you a 7-tuner DVR, like the enhanced DVR. They claim that their DVRs only have 2 tuners in them, but everyone that I know that has picked them up as of recent say that that's not true. There's 4 tuners in them, which should be sufficient. It's not as good as 6, but and when they introduce what's called the World Box, their World Box 2 platform, that's supposed to have 8 tuners in it. So everyone clear, just so I didn't want anybody to have any surprises when you get a bill for your DVR box that you didn't have before.
Now, what is a World Box?
It's complicated, but a World Box is Spectrum's concept of how to do digital video recording service. It does a lot of it works with the cloud. I think the concept being that instead of everyone having to record, American Idol or whatever it is that you watch, and there's 500 recordings of the same program in Wildwood Springs, that you set it to record like you do now, but it records up in the cloud. So there's actually only one recording of that program that multiple people can access. And it does a lot of other things. It has technical overlays where you can use some of the Netflix kind of programming and stuff like that through the World Box. It's just a different platform, a lot more sophisticated, communicates with the with the cloud and stuff like that. They're having some issues with it, so that's why we haven't seen it deployed. The World Box 1 is what's deployed out here now, and I believe that's the one with the 4 tuners in it. Any questions on that piece of it?
The box that records shows, is that a DVD?
Yes,
DVR box?
yeah, it's a digital video
We
recorder.
went that one so we could record shows. We can, that's one of our boxes.
That's one, not one that you
No.
will be part of the bulk. It's part of your bulk now until
Yeah.
the implementation date. Okay?
No, it's not.
It should be. How many boxes do you have in your place?
No, we're paying for it now.
We just moved in and we were given just a basic box. We had to go get the DVR and we had to pay additional for it.
So,
Yes.
so they're counting that as
We
2
do.
boxes because your bulk today says you can pick 1 box.
But we traded in the other box.
But that says that today, the contract that it's talking about doesn't start till November 1st. So
Yeah, I knew
you
you
do
were-
have an expense
Oh,
for
but I
next
thought you
month.
were saying that you didn't pay right now.
Yeah, you do pay right
You
now.
have,
That's why we
everyone-
wanted to get this thing in
The
quick.
reason why we're pushing for this is so
Oh, yeah, no,
real
I want
quick,
this.
you don't have to pay for this.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so that's the video piece of it. Everyone's got the equipment, you've got the channel lineups on it. If there are any changes Spectrum makes to these lineups, they change for everybody. Most of the changes that have been made to lineups have been to increase them. This whole digital transition is to free up capacity. Because, for example, one analog channel can hold 15 digital channels in that same one spot. It can hold like 8 HD channels, and it can add a whole lot of bandwidth to increase the internet speed. So they're going to allocate it amongst all those things and have space for 4, KTVs and all that kind of stuff. So I would say that if anything happens to this lineup moving forward over the term, you'll probably see it get enhanced with an additional program. The other good news, of course, is the internet. So your internet is going to be 100 by 10 megabits per second. That is your starting speed because the internet service is called Spectrum Standard Internet. And when that package moves for the community, it moves for everybody. So they're saying in the first quarter of next year, that 100 by 10 should become 200 by 20. Okay? And then as that increases, it will continue.